Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I'm in the Event and Meeting Management major with a minor in Hotel Management, and I will be going over Chapter 14 today. Chapter 14 covers communications in the promotional mix. So just a little overview of the chapter. It spoke about the 9 key elements of the communication process, and those 9 key elements are source, encoding, message, medium, decoding, noise, receiver, response, and feedback. So those all play into marketing and all the different aspects that go into it. The book also mentioned explicit and implicit communication. And explicit communication is the definite message that is given to customers through the use of language, either written or oral. So that can be a guest saying, hey, I didn't like this thing, or just being straight up front with them. That's kind of what it means. And then on the opposite of that, there's implicit communication, which is cues or messages conveyed through body language, such as facial expressions or gestures. So it's kind of the, oh, I don't like that, or things like that, but it's not necessarily stated out front. Then they also talked about the 5 promotional mix elements, and that is what we'll be talking about today with our question that we will be answering. And then there's also the factors affecting the promotional mix. So these are all the things that come from the outside that you may not know are affecting it. And here's a little bit more of the breakdown. So the goals of promotion are to inform, persuade, and remind. So you want to get people's attention, bring them in, and make sure that they get everything they need to come to your company or buy your product. And so those are those goals. So the promotional mix that we will be talking about includes advertising, personal selling, sales promotion, merchandising, and public relations and publicity. So the promotional mix is one of the 8 elements of the marketing mix that we learned in earlier chapters. So just to give you a little reminder of what the marketing mix is, so it includes the controllable factors including product, price, place, promotion, packaging, programming, people, and partnership. So those are the 8 P's. And those are all the things that an organization selects to satisfy customer needs. So the promotional mix is just one aspect of the marketing mix. So here's the question I'll be answering today. It says, select part of the hospitality and travel industry in which you are most interested. Assume you have just been satisfied with its past promotional activities and you have been asked to recommend more effective promotional approaches. How would you present this information, making sure that you mention the advantages and disadvantages of each of the 5 promotional mix? So that's what I talked about earlier. So the company I chose was Fresh Tracks Catering. They're part of the hospitality industry because they work with clients daily. And so this is just something I wanted you guys to look at. This is their website, their front page. So taking a look at it, do you guys think it's appealing? Does it look very inviting? Those are just some of the questions to keep in mind for looking at some of those. So personally, I think that they could use a little more, I don't know, jazz, you could call it, just so it's more inviting to customers, because right now it's the basics. And there's just a little bit, it's a little smaller font, and they have a lot of negative space, so they should really fill that. But I'll talk about more of the recommendations after we go through all of the promotional mix. So the first part of the promotional mix is advertising. The advantages for that is you can reach a wider base of customers and create the image for clients that they will remember about the company. And then you can repeat messages and reminders numerous times. But the disadvantage to this is that there's no way to be able to close the sale. So that means you're not doing the upfront with the customer the whole time. They see it, and then you hopefully are able to contact them later. Another big disadvantage is the advertising cluster. So that means that a lot of other companies are having their advertising needs or their pictures and flyers handed out in the same area that you are. So that company, their stuff might get lost. It's kind of like shoot at the end what you get, and hopefully customers go for it. And then customers can easily ignore it, and it's hard to get the responses from it. The next one is personal sales. So personal sales is more upfront. You get to speak with the customer, and you're able to make a sale a lot easier than if they are just advertising on a poster board. And then that way, during personal sales, usually it's through the phone or in person meetings, you can hold the customer's attention the whole time and then get immediate feedback at the end, how they're feeling, if they're going to want to buy it right away, or if they might want to wait. But the disadvantage to that is that it's a higher cost per contract, because that means you have to spend that time. The owner has to pay that person to sit down with a client and talk with them, and it's a lot harder sometimes. And then it's also hard to reach customers, trying to figure out their schedules, match up with your schedules, and things like that. So the other one is sales promotion. The advantages of this is you get the quick feedback, and you're able to add excitement into your product. And there's also flexible timing. So sales promotion is making like those special events and networking events and going out and doing that. But the disadvantage to this is that there are short-term benefits, and it's hard to build the relationship just because it is such a quick event to get into and sell there. So another one is merchandising. So this is a great one. A lot of companies do it. You see it all over. For example, Aeropostale. They merchandise all the time. You buy their merchandise, and then sometimes it'll have their logo on the front, and you wear that, and technically you're marketing for them. So with merchandising, their advantages are there's quick feedback, you can add excitement to the service, and there's flexible timing. So it is a lot like the sales promotion that we just talked about. But the disadvantage too is it contributes to a visual clutter. Just like in advertising, when there's a bunch of different companies doing the same thing, they're all in that same area. But there is a longer lasting impact on this one, because customers will buy your products that you have, or your merchandise that has your logos on it, and people will be showing that around. They'll be wearing that hat or that shirt or using that keychain, and people will see that, and it helps to merchandise, which helps to advertise in the future. But the problem is that there's too much too quick. So if you sell it all at once, people already have it, and then you only get that marketing for a smaller amount of time. So companies just have to keep that in mind. Then there's also public relations and publicity. So the advantage of this is that it is low cost. It's not seen as commercials to clients, because clients, when they see a commercial, they're just kind of like, oh, there's another commercial, I don't really want to watch it. And they skip through them. It's just like the ads on Facebook. If you're watching a video and a commercial comes up, you really hate watching that, and your attention is really not on it for a long amount of time. But the other advantage is there's a lot of public presence and credibility that's implied to the endorsements. So if people trust this one person and they endorse the company, they talk highly about it, then you'll be more recommended, and people are more likely to come to that company. But the disadvantage to this is there's a lack of control and difficulty to arrange constantly. So with this, you're either trying to get on websites or news stations and things like that to get that publicity, and hopefully it's always positive, because there's a lot of negative publicity these days, and a company does not want that if they are trying to grow the company. So one of the articles I was able to find, it's by Suzanne Sparks. She talks a little bit about public relations and publicity, and she mentions that if you need to control the message, channel or audience, or access to the media, use advertising rather than public relations. Just the advertising gets out better, and there's the better range for public relations, and you can reach more customers at that time. So these are the recommendations I have for Fresh Tracks Catering, and these are things that can be applied in many different ways, or things like that. So one of them is using SEO, which stands for Search Engine Optimization. So that is where companies have better rankings, better user experience, and a high organic search percentage. And you may be thinking to yourself, what is organic search? So that just means that when somebody goes in and they just type, for example, best caterer in Denver, and they kind of go with whatever pops up first. And if Fresh Tracks Catering does not pop up, then you're not going to get that business. So with that organic search, you want your name to be at the top of the list. So companies can pay more for that, and that's what Fresh Tracks Catering should do. So when you type in best caterers in Denver or catering in Evergreen, Fresh Tracks Catering will be the first one to show up, and then people will click on that more. So from one of the articles I found, it said that organic search may account for as much as 64% of all website visits. 64% is a very high percentage, especially when looking at this. Another reason that you need to be at the top is being the second or the third on the page means virtually no search visibility, because people go for that first one and they're like, oh, that's easy. First one, that means they pay for it. They're working hard for it. And the other ones aren't doing that. So it's not like they're trying to get those leads or get that business. So that's one of the things to keep in mind. And a lot of them are like, oh, the search engine optimization costs money. But people have to keep in mind that you have to spend money to make money. And companies just need to realize that. So another recommendation I have is for them to understand their market and the lead generation. So a lot of you may not know what lead generation is, but it's where a company, for example, Bark, which I mentioned in the PowerPoint, they started this thing where a client goes on and says, I need catering in Littleton. And what Bark, the company, will do is send out a notification to all the caterers in Littleton and say, this person is looking for a caterer. If you'd like, please respond to her. Here's a little more information. So that's a lead generator, and that helps you get those people or companies that need catering without them having to direct you right away themselves, and you can contact them. Another one is trust through education, and that is just making sure that your clients know you're educated in the industry. So having your chefs know all about the different gluten-free, vegetarian-free, dairy-free, and things like that. But your sales people also have to know about those. So when clients ask, what is the best for a gluten-free guest? What is the best for a vegan guest? That they're able to answer those questions, because then the client feels more comfortable working with you. And another one is just through Facebook. Facebook is such a simple and easy way to market. Have your presence on social media and get out there, because a lot of companies don't have that. And without that, you're not going to get the leads and clients that you need. So make sure that the company's on there, and then other social media places as well they need to be on, such as Pinterest, Twitter, Instagram, and things like that. And you kind of have to find what fits best for the company. So when looking into it, I was looking at Fresh Tracks Catering, and I thought they should be on Pinterest more often, because they can post recommendations for menu options and meal ideas, and then they also work at every single wedding, so they can post pictures of what they do and have other people like them, share them, and that way it gets more people noticed of Fresh Tracks Catering. So they really need to get on there and do that. But other ones are going back to understanding the market. People need to make sure that they're reaching the clients they need. So clients that are having weddings or corporate events, they need to look into that and make sure they're not contacting people that are older, because those ones don't need catering options as much as the younger generations who are getting married. So there's just the different things to keep in mind with all of that. But those are my recommendations, and then also here are my citations that I used. So I found those 3 great articles, and then also our textbook that we use. So thank you guys so much for watching.